Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace reporting live here at Dizzy's Club-Coca, here at Jazz at Lincoln Center here in New York City. Blessing the band stage this weekend to 6 sold-out performances here at Dizzy's is pianist Helen Sung. In fact, 2014, she's going to be releasing her very new recording, Anthem For A Day, on the Concord Records imprint. We sat down earlier and we talked about this brand new album. We talked about the direction of her music as far as being a jazz composer and a jazz leader. We also talked about her growing up in Houston, Texas. As you might know, she went to the Houston School for the Performing and Visual Arts, and some of her classmates ranged from Jason Moran, Robert Glasper, Eric Harlan, and Kendrick Scott, just to name a few. Also, we sat down and talked about her technique to playing the piano versus her classical upbringing to what she brings to the jazz world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of Miss Helen Sung live here at Dizzy's Club-Coca, here at Jazz at Lincoln Center here in New York City. Congratulations on this upcoming new album that you have coming out on Concord Records called Anthem For A Day. And it seems like 2014 is going to be the year of Helen Sung.
Wow, that's really nice of you to say that, Brian. We'll see. I feel like a lot of things are coming together in a really exciting way, and not necessarily how I planned or envisioned it, but a lot of times in life I feel like that's when the best things happen, and they all come at once, so it's really thrilling and a lot going on.
How is this album compared to your other 3 recordings?
Well, I've released 5 as a leader, 2 on Fresh Sound, then 2 on Sunnyside Records, and then 1 for Steeplechase. And I always tell people that I came to jazz so late. I thought I wanted to be a concert pianist, and in college, I'm from Houston, Texas. I went to UT Austin for classical piano, and then I let myself, let's say, I let jazz find me. And so I feel like I've been playing catch up for the longest time, and working really hard because I really wanted to play jazz authentically, not just, I could get by because I had technique and whatnot. So along the way, there are a lot of people, all well-meaning, the jazz masters. I so appreciate them. They tell you different things they think you need to check out. You need to learn about the blues. You need to learn about, gospel and R&B and all that stuff. And I took it all in. But I also felt pressure, like, well, okay, I need to be this more, and I need to be that. Am I that enough? And I feel like with Anthem for a New Day, I'm finally coming to a place where I feel more comfortable with where I am and who I am as an artist, and also allowing this whole classical experience that I've had and that I kind of put on the shelf for a long time to seep back in a very organic way. So anthem, that word to me, I see banners and flags or whatnot, so I feel like this is like the flag in the sand saying this is who Helen Sung is.
Tell me who the personnel or the special guests you have on this recording.
Well, it's just, everybody's so busy, so I'm so blessed that they were all available to record. The core band, Ruben Rogers on bass, Obed Calviare on drums, Seamus Blake on tenor and soprano saxophone, Ingrid Jensen on trumpet, and we have the wonderful percussionist who I don't get to hire that often, but he's on this record fabulous, from Colombia, Samuel Torres, and then two very special guests, Paquito de Rivera, Grammy-winning multi-instrumentalist and NEA jazz master, and then the icing on the whole project, MacArthur Genius Fellow violinist Regina Carter.
This album seems like you are really exposing more of your compositions, but also you're really kind of taking your piano skills to another level.
Well, it's very kind of you. I hope so. I mean, I love someone like Herbie who just keeps growing, always curious, always searching for higher, deeper, newer, I don't know if that, just wanting to raise his art to the next level, and that's what I hope to do with my artistic life and journey.
You said that you came into jazz late, but let's talk about how you came into piano. I understand 4 or 5 years old. That's when it started.
Yes, I remember when I was 3, I had this little plastic toy piano. It was about this long and it had batteries and it had about 12 keys, like the colors of the rainbow. I remember carrying it around with me. I hope it was mine because I don't think I shared it with any of my brother and sisters. And my mom said she heard me playing melodies on that little keyboard that I heard off of the radio and TV. I don't remember that, but that gave my parents an inspiration. Maybe this is something we should start her on just to give her something to do. I don't think they ever wanted me or saw me becoming a musician because I don't come from an artistic family or musical family for that matter. So when one of their friends, they were moving back to Taiwan, they had an upright piano that they needed to get rid of. So they gave it to my parents and started me at lessons. I actually started on violin also at age 5 and studied all through high school. And like I said, once I went on to college, I thought I wanted to be a classical pianist. So it's a long time, a lot of practicing.
You also attended the Houston High School for Performing Arts, and there was a hodgepodge of talent that you came out with. There's Robert Glasper, Jason Moran, Eric Harlan, Kendrick Scott. They were the funk and the soul side of it, which evolved into jazz musicians, and you were just a straight up classical. Can I say the word geek?
Sure, geek nerd. I still am. Well, I was there when Jason Moran was there, but I'm a little older than them, and Chris Dave was there when I was there. And it's, I guess you can't change the past, or it's not much use regretting, but it's like we were right across the hall from each other, the classical department and the jazz department, and I had like no contact with them. I don't think I went to one jazz concert. I was just, I was being taught at that time by a very great teacher. She came from the Russian school, but very serious, hard line. Like, I wasn't supposed to listen to anything except for classical music. That was what was drummed into my head. And, I come from a culture which really respects teachers, and you don't question them, and what they say is right. And so unfortunately, I wasn't much of a, rebel in terms of that. So, that makes me a little sad because I wish I had been more open. But I guess things happen at the time that they're supposed to happen. And I'm so grateful. Dr. Robert Morgan, who was the director of the jazz department at, it's called HSPVA, High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. I really credit him. Everybody credits him with just creating this amazing scene and community in Houston. And he said, "Oh, we adopt you. You're part of the jazz department here." And it was really fun because 2 years ago I went back to Houston and did some master classes there and played on my first PVA jazz fall concert. So it took a minute, but better late than never, right?
When you went to the University of Texas, Austin, and you studied class, you got your master's and you also got your undergrad in classical piano. What was the defining moment for you? I understand that Harry Connick played a great deal with it also, but there's some great. But you know what? You're laughing, but I'm a classical geek too, and Glenn Gould comes to mind as a great. Was he one of the guys on your list that you just listened to as far as technique, or just in awe of how classical music was supposed to be played?
Well, I think he is a brilliant pianist, of course, and musician, and he revolutionized the way people approached the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, and he's one of my favorite composers. I actually performed the Goldberg Variations for my master's recital, so I went deep into it, and, Gould's recording of that is just seminal, both the first one and the second one, I think, that he did later in his life. But jazz was just something that was so not on my radar at all, and then, like you said, a friend of mine dragged me to a Harry Connick Jr. concert. I wasn't aware who he was. I was a geek in the practice room. And he had his big band, and he was singing, and very, she was right, very handsome, very charming. But in the middle of the concert, he sat down and played some solo piano pieces, and that was what I was like, what? Because the music was so alive, it grabbed me in a way that no other music had until, up to that point. And I just felt like I was going to jump out of my skin. Here he was banging on the piano like, I've been taught you to never bang on the piano like that, but it sounded so good in the rhythm and the drive and the energy. So as a result, we enrolled in a beginning jazz piano class. And then after that, I said, I have to find out more about this music. And luckily, the jazz department at UT was still very young at that point, but there was a really good piano teacher, jazz piano professor, and I begged him. It took a minute to give me lessons, but he finally relented. And he would just lend me recordings of stuff that he listened to. And Tommy Flanagan was, I think it was his solo on Confirmation, Charlie Parker's Confirmation, that I was like, okay, that's it. I have to be able to play like this one day, or somewhere close to this, because just the sound, the swing, that's what really got me. Because, other musics in the world have improvisation, but swing is unique to jazz, and it's that forward motion that isn't rushing and is so grooving. I think it's so organic because our heartbeat is part of that. I think that's why it's so just closely connected to us. That get your foot tapping, get you, bobbing your head, or just get up and dance. That energy, that special energy of jazz. I said, that's it.
Going back to your training, how has classical music and your classical training enhanced your style of or your approach to jazz music?
Well, I think it certainly makes it different. Well, okay, at the most basic level, technique. My technique was in place, so I didn't have to struggle with that, and also just range of sound, maybe nuance. I think that's another thing that classical music excels at, just the range of dynamics and colors. And I think playing the violin was also great for me because I played in youth orchestras and stuff. Just hearing just the sheer amount of music, just the diversity of textures and range and instrumentation, orchestration, that really makes a big difference in my writing and my composition and how I arrange for my band and how I even present the band. Because, I was working on jazz so hard and wanting to, I really want to know how to swing, and so I was really just focusing, just playing a single lines in my right hand and comping chords in my left hand. And now I'm starting to bring back just, in classical music, you play so many different ways, all the sonatas, the concertos, the etudes, the preludes. The piano is so vast, right? There's a whole universe there. So I think bringing that into my jazz playing is going to be my big goal for my life. Just how can I get that kind of level of sophistication and range and diversity into a medium where you're basically composing it on the spot. But it's deep because back in the day, that's what those classical artists did. Beethoven, Mozart, up till Franz Liszt, they could improvise in the way they wrote, which if you look at their compositions, that's really amazing. So,
are you moving in a direction where you want to incorporate classical into jazz, or are you comfortable being the rebel now and just playing straight ahead jazz?
Well, I think jazz, one thing that I love about jazz music is, and one thing that it did for me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, it forced me to deal with myself. I think jazz is something that's helped make me hopefully the better or best version of who I could be as a person and human being. So I think I consider myself a jazz artist. I do. But I think, like I said, jazz is about who you are in totality, ideally, in my opinion. So classical music was such a big part of it. I think if I'm honest, I can't help but let it leak through now and then because it's such a deep part of who I am. So, I hope I'll always be a bit of an iconoclast. I like bucking the trends and being different. Just being a woman in jazz, that's a whole nother topic. Makes you different, but I just appreciate what Jimmy Heath said. He's, the great saxophonist. He was one of our teachers at the Monk Institute program. Just saying, don't be afraid of being different. That can be your greatest asset.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, here at Jazz at Lincoln Center here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the incomparable Helen Sung for her time, as well as the staff and management here at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, here at Jazz at Lincoln Center, for their warm hospitality. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.